Welcome home. I'm Mark, and I am joined today by John Morgan IV, one of the most successful producers here in the real estate market in Tampa, Florida. Welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, Morgan, you are John Morgan, one of the top producers at Keller Williams Tampa Central's office, and you run the Morgan Capital Group. Tell us a little bit about that before we get into the program.
Yeah, so I've been in real estate for about 4 years now, and I have a small team. I have 2 agents that work under me and a transaction coordinator who works part-time. And yeah, we pretty much, I work a lot of the listings and people that I know, and I send most of the other stuff to the buyer's agents. They, kind of run around and, do their thing. And yeah, we've had some good success so far this year. And, having a record year, just got to keep going on and making it happen.
A record year. You blew right past that comment. And a record year indeed for you and the team. And that's something I wanted to start the show off with, is talking about the Morgan Capital Group and the fact that it consists of yourself and only 2 others. Shout out to Charles and to Frankie, the other 2 people who glued the group together with you. Tell us, the first thing that comes to mind when I see a team of 3 doing such a high production, setting records. What do you attribute that to compared to having teams who have, a dozen or more people on?
Yeah, so what's funny is Charles pretty much just started. We've got his first deal under contract. Actually, I think today it should be wrapping up. So I've tried having a large team, and, a lot of times it can be easy to say yes to everybody who wants to join. What I've learned is it's quality over quantity. It's not about, having a large team. It could, looks great. It looks like you're killing it and whatnot, but there's lots of teams out there that are doing, half or a quarter of the business that we're doing, 5, 10 people. And really it's just been me and one other agent, for
Frankie.
quite some time. Yeah. Frankie and I.
Well, let's get into that, because I think it's really important for us to talk about why people become successful in real estate without having an army behind them. So, clearly it's not, I digress. Maybe it's not so clear, but I would assume it's not necessarily volume that you guys are setting records with, but maybe more quality deals, higher end deals. What do you attribute your relationship with, your work relationship with Frankie and the way that she's been able to help you elevate your business? And again, I go back to the original point of having such a small team and doing so well.
So it's funny, Frankie's actually been, she was my first agent, and she's, stuck around. I think what it comes down to is, I believe in her, she believes in me, and, we synergize quite well. I, make up anything that she kind of needs, any weaknesses that, she may have. I just try to go in there and support her. I definitely think that it, it just happened. I don't know if it's luck or, whatever the case may be, but, ultimately, we just kind of, she didn't really believe in herself when she first started, and I kind of saw something in her, and, it just happened to, work out quite well. And she has, good amount of success. So,
well, let me help you try to paint more of a picture with that. What would you say are one or two of those qualities that put someone like her ahead of the curve to be able to produce with you? And you turn down other agents, as you mentioned earlier, other agents who would want to be part of the Morgan Capital Group, but just don't have a seat for them at the time. What would you attribute some of those characteristics? What would make you say yes to someone?
Yeah, I think, number one, what I really try to do is I try to talk them out of it. Honestly, if somebody does want to join, and also I really, at this point, I prefer to deal with people who have been in the business for a little while. I think, in all reality, about 80% of them make it. So, 80% of them don't make it.
Right.
So, after the first 3 years. So, if I can find somebody who has a decent production and knows they want to do it and they are bought in, that's something that I look for. I'm not looking for somebody who, is kind of jumping, from job to job, kind of looking for the next best thing, because in all reality, there's so many, real estate's just one, profession. It may not be for everyone. I think that if you give your 100% and really study the craft of anything that you do, I believe you'll be successful. So whether that's real estate, whether it's insurance, whether it's, whatever the business is. So, yeah, I mean, when somebody, comes in, first off, again, try to talk them out of it. If I can talk them out of it, then, when they start dealing with clients and things start getting real hairy, as there's plenty of excuses, to quit. So
you bring something up there. It's a good point. When the going gets tough, they always say, if you can't handle the heat, get out of the kitchen. Do you see that? Have you seen that in the past? People you work with, and they seem like they have all this potential, and once things start to heat up and things are complicated with a deal, or a client is just not happy with them, and maybe they don't know how to deal with that. Is that a huge turnoff for you?
So it's not necessarily. What's a turnoff is quitting, and not being receptive to coaching. I can tell somebody and I can explain how to deal with every situation. I can explain how to have to not have a situation where a client would actually fire you. And, that's should be pretty unlikely. I really don't have that happen very often. I think if anything, I'd say we more let the client go on our end. It's more of us. It's like we can't meet their expectations. So then we tell them that, and that leads us to not having an awkward situation later on where they are letting us go. But yeah, I mean, it can be frustrating. Sure. I mean, agents will call you and, they're having a hard time, and, maybe they're ready to have a breakdown. And a lot of times that's a lot of the value that I offer is, I'm there for them. And, when there is a tough time, I'm coaching them through it.
Man, John, you come from managing retail stores. And I would assume you'd have, a staff of anywhere from like 10 to 20 or something like that, or something like that. So when you got into real estate, let me just get to a quick question. When you got to real estate, just using those ballpark figures as having a staff like that, what, when it was time to start that team and the Morgan Capital Group became, into actuality, what was it that clicked with you that said, I don't need a huge team. I don't need all of these bodies. What I need is one or two people who can really do what I want.
Right. So, when you first start, like when I picked up Frankie as my number one, my first buyer's agent, what happened to realize that I needed to start a team was I was one of the first agents to, I shouldn't say the first, but I was one of the pioneers of Facebook ads, and it would generate a lot of leads. Not the highest quality leads, however, a lot of leads. So I wasn't able to deal with all of them. I had a lot of business with my sphere, but I would still pick up some deals from Facebook. It was very inexpensive to produce those leads, so I had an abundance of them. So I ran a class, and I told everybody in the class, I'll refer out some business to you guys because I do have too many leads. And that Frankie happened to go to that class, and that's kind of where our relationship started. So then once I picked up Frankie, I started producing more as well, and I started spending more money in Facebook ads, and that created more leads. So then other people saw that we were successful, and whenever people see you're successful, they start showing up and asking to join. So, and friends would refer, and I never actually put out a post. People would just literally come to me, friends of friends, and people from social media and stuff like that. So I pretty much would take on most people. I didn't take on everybody that did, but we ended up growing to 7 people pretty quickly, and I think that was one of the biggest mistakes I made. And early on in my career too,
Putting too many people on your team too quickly.
Yes, I think that's a very common mistake that agents make, and it can really stunt your growth. It can set you back for a while. It could be detrimental to your career. It could potentially end your career, and then you're all of a sudden. Well, I shouldn't even say maybe say in your career, but you could end up just imploding, and then just kind of being on your own and just being like dazed from managing all of those people and not getting a return. You can get some serious PTSD. I see agents now that are in our office that they've done it and they just have no desire to do so. And I think a lot of times it's because they grew too quick.
Interesting. And we say Charles and Frankie, and to be fair, I'd like to, say their full names. So Frankie Rome and Charles Rumpf, Morgan Capital Group.
Yep.
As a real estate agent in Tampa, I highly recommend calling them as well.
If
you've lost my number, give them a call.
Yes,
highly recommended.
Call Mark first. Yeah. Call Lala.
Call Keller Williams Tampa Central first.
Yeah.
Let's start there, and then they'll get you the right person. But in all actuality, I do want to talk about that. That's a good transition. There's Keller Williams Tampa Central. The last time I checked, the second highest grossing brokerage in the scorching hot Tampa market. Mm-hmm. And that's not by accident. That's by design. Gary Keller, a genius, an entrepreneur genius, and then a team that we have here, from McLaughlin Group all the way to our office, just a phenomenal staff. Most of them have been there for over a decade, so it's a solid staff. And not only do they have a solid staff, but the way that they bring agents in and the way that they train them, I think it leads to a lot of the success that we see there. That's a huge reason that they are the second highest grossing brokerage. And I say second because the first, if you give them a call, the robots are answering their phones. Humans are answering our phones. So I think there's a huge difference in the kind of service that you'll get when you call people at Keller Williams. Did that play into your success as well, John? And I don't mean to put you on the spot, may or may not have, but the kind of foundation that Keller Williams builds for agents, I think that helped build me in a short period of time, and helped me build a foundation that is extremely important in trying to be successful in this business.
Yeah, so I definitely say Keller Williams has a big part of my success. I definitely believe that a lot of brokerages in general, if you really just listen to what they're doing, I think you'll be fine in general. Looking back now. However, when I spoke to multiple people in the industry before I got into real estate, I was pitched, a few different options, and a lot of them, when I explained kind of what I was looking for, I need training, I need to know what I'm doing. I want a name that's recognizable. And, most of them would say, well, go to Keller Williams. And, if at some point, if you think that maybe this is a good fit for you, then maybe, jump at that point. But, they're going to offer you some of the best training. They wrote the book on how to be very successful in this business. So, when you're dealing with everyone else is kind of using a lot of what they've created, and they kind of throw their own little spin on it, throw some technology or this and that.
Can I throw a little gas in the fire while you're going there? And it also, how many times have you seen agents who have been licensed for 2 to 4 years who come to Keller Williams and kick themselves in the buns because they didn't go there to begin with, and they start that training and all that?
Yeah, so what I see a lot of times is that they may go to a brokerage that doesn't offer the support or doesn't offer the training. They don't have the processes and systems installed, and a lot of times they go in, they look at their career 2, 3, 4 years later, and they're like, where's my there's no success here. There's kind of stagnant, maybe selling 10 to 12 homes a year, which is not necessarily bad. They just desire more. And, sometimes you kind of have to just like with anything, like say, if you've been lifting weights wrong for all these years, you have to take all the weight off the weights and go down to basic form. And, I've seen agents do that to where if they can wipe everything that they kind of learned, all those bad habits that they learned with some of these other brokerages, and just start an Ignite and go through the process, they will end up, a lot of times losing a lot of those bad habits, or really understanding what the job is. Because in all reality, when everyone, a lot of people going into real estate, they think it's one thing, and they think it's going to be one way, and it never is. It's never going to be exactly what you thought it was.
You have to mold your own bit. You have to mold your own business and create the revenue. It's not a job,
right?
It's you have to be an entrepreneur. And I know a lot of people in real estate who coach real estate don't love the word entrepreneur. They want you to be more purposeful and in different language like that. But at the end of the day, you cannot get into real estate thinking you're going to start a glamorous job. It's just not like that.
See, I mean, there's entrepreneurial, and then there's being purposeful, and the entrepreneurial is like that's got you into real estate. That you made that jump because you are an entrepreneur. That's in your heart. And then, well, of course, that's great. Then you do need to be purposeful, and that's where that comes into play. And if you're not purposeful with what you do and your actions and learning and also prospecting, you're likely going to fail. I do believe that, the whole team aspect definitely has a place. And there's some people that do like more structure, and that may feel a little more like a job because you are, answering to somebody. They're guiding you. They're kind of telling you what to do. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. And there's definitely, people that they may want to start out, on that path. And then there are some people that maybe just want to start off independent, and that's a decision you have to make. And, Frankie, she's making 6 figures, and, I'm proud of her. She's never made that kind of money in her life, and she's doing that working for a team. So, I see independent agents that make, 15, 20, 40, 50,000 a year, and yeah, sure. They're on their own and they're getting 100% of what they make. However, you have somebody else who is on a team and they make 6 figures. And I mean, she does work hard, but she's not like, she loves her job. She loves what she does. She's excited to come to work.
Another really important part of being a real estate agent, or, any aspect of that real estate industry, it's something you have to love, because you're dealing with personalities all day, and you're liaisoning the biggest transaction of most people's lives. And it's cliche, we hear that a lot in real estate, but that comes with a lot of skill and a lot of it comes with a lot of, you need patience, and if your patience runs out, that means you're just not enjoying your job. And for me, some of the tough times that we have, I don't necessarily enjoy them. That would be the wrong word. But when you're going through a tough time, but you come out on the other end even better, or you worked it out, that can be more rewarding than a smooth transaction in some cases,
Sure.
Whatever the case may be. But you really have to love what you're doing. Like, you really have to wake up and sort of look forward to what that day is going to bring. Otherwise, it's going to be an uphill battle, because that's what real estate is. I always say, it wasn't a career change for me. It was a lifestyle change.
Yes, I definitely believe being in a real estate business is definitely a lifestyle change. You eat it, you live it, you breathe it. Your partner is involved in it, whether they like it or not. I know I had a girl on my team, and she had a guy she was dating, and they would go to, I would tell her, I'd say, when you go to a bar, or if you go to a restaurant, talk to the server, tell them that you're in real estate. There's nothing wrong with doing that. If you spark up a conversation to somebody next to you, find a way to tie in the fact that you are in real estate, because they're not going to know if you don't tell them. So she would do that, and she would carry cards. And she's not she wasn't an aggressive person by any means, but the person she was with, kind of had a conversation, pulled off to the side one day. He's like, I really just don't feel comfortable. Like, I think we should leave work at work and this and that. And he would give her he'd give her a really hard time about it. And, she told me that, and I said, I'm not going to tell you to, leave this person, however, I think you do need a conversation with them and say that, you are in this business, and it's very important that you are successful. And in order to do that, my boss is telling me to give cards out when I'm at a restaurant and speak to people about real estate. And if you're telling me I can't do that, it's going to pose a problem.
Yeah. I understand. I don't agree with him, but I understand. I'm in business with my wife. Tampa Homes with Lala is our team, and me and my wife are the only people on the team, so we work together every day. So I can see how an insecure person, and I don't know the person, but I can see how an insecure person how they might feel if every time they go out, their significant other is sparking a conversation with another man. Right. And I can see how an insecure person who doesn't understand how that's going to build their generational wealth how they may get upset, but that's, as you said, that's going to need a conversation.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we know when it comes down to it, in order to be successful, you're just going to have to tell as many people as possible that you're in real estate. Like, you're not going to sell all of them, but like one person, and you don't know who that is. I don't know how many times where I didn't want to go out, and one of my friends are like, hey, come on, go out, this and that. And then I end up meeting somebody, and it blossoms into a wonderful relationship where it's like I literally, one day I was not going to go out at all. Friend calls me up, and I'm like, all right, let me just go ahead and go out. It meant a lot to him. He was maybe having a hard time, I believe, at the time, or something was going on. He just really wanted to do something. So I go meet him up at a local pub nearby, and I happen to meet this great guy, the husband and wife, and he had a house that he needed to sell, and ended up selling his home. And he's referred me business. We've had a great relationship. He's an awesome guy. He really likes bourbon and things like that. A lot of similar things. He's a doctor. He's a physician over at a children's hospital or something. But again, if it wasn't for me going out and talking about real estate while I'm with my friend, with this guy, I would have never had that opportunity. And it's like, you miss out on that, and you just don't know when it's going to come.
Outside of personal relationships and, repeat clients, I mean, you deal with a lot of higher end luxury, $1 million+ deals. And with that said, most of those deals who aren't from personal relationships or from repeat business come from being out in those on the scene. Mm-hmm. You're not going to tell a person who's going to buy a $2 million cash home.
Right.
That's going to come from, as you said, getting out there and positioning yourself to get in those conversations.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're hanging out in areas where, people, it's more expensive, you're going to be around people that make more money, and people that make more money tend to buy more expensive homes. And ultimately that's what it comes down to. Like, would I tell somebody who's like brand new into real estate, like, yeah, go ahead and hang out at a steakhouse and, run up large tabs and whatnot? No, I wouldn't recommend that. However, that's definitely one piece of the puzzle, for getting to that level. But I believe that the higher price points choose you. It's not something that I wouldn't like go out there and just be like, yeah, I'm going to sell $1 million homes.
Elaborate on they choose you. When you say that, what does that mean? How do they find you, or why do they choose you?
Yeah. So, I mean, when I first got into real estate, I didn't, I've always enjoyed nice things. I've always, it's just how I've always been. And I've always, I've had success in my other career too. Obviously, real estate's changed my life. I make significantly more money than I used to. However, I knew I didn't have to sell, $1 million homes in order to hit the goals that I desired. I was living in like the Brandon area, and I was fine selling, those single family homes. I had I was intimidated really to go, sell $1 million homes and whatnot. And, at some point, I knew when I went to downtown Tampa area, I knew for sure, I just fell in love with it. And I was like, this is where I want to live 100%. And obviously being in a brokerage that is in downtown Tampa is an obvious and no-brainer for me. Mm-hmm. I knew I wanted to join Keller Williams. Everyone would tell me that was the best training in a business. So that's what I did. And, so then being in this area, a lot of times people have a little more money in general, because it's more expensive to live here, and it will equate to you selling more expensive homes. So I think if that answers your question.
It does. And back to again, just to kind of put a bow on the training at Keller Williams and the things that come along with that. Yes, you're paying a brokerage a percentage of your commission, but the volume that you can create in your first year of business with that foundation, I'm happy to pay a brokerage for that kind of opportunity.
Oh yeah.
And on the other side of that coin, Keller Williams has dished out nearly 1.3 million. Excuse me, I digress. Has kicked out nearly $1.3 billion in profit share to their agents like yourself and me, and that nearly $1.3 billion would have gone into the pockets of the owners in any other company. That's where that money goes. That's profit share. It's not gross revenue share, it's profit. That's the owner's money.
Right.
And since profit share kicked off, they've given out over $1.2 billion to agents. So yeah, you're going to give them a little money to have that great foundation. But I mean, it's just so valuable compared to trying to start and, getting 100% commission. And I mean, look, you get what you pay for. You get what you put in. I mean, it's just like finding leads. Those weren't the leads that you found, as you were getting your business and growing and getting to the point where you needed a team. They weren't free.
Right.
You in some way or another paid for them.
Yep.
So with that said, you're going to get what you put into this business. And a lot of those brokerages who are taking giving you 100% of your commission. I mean, if you do some math, you can realize that some of those places can just be a business model in its own, where their agents don't even have to close a deal and they're still doing really well. I'll try to do it simply here. If you have 500, let's say you have 500 agents at an office and your overhead is like $10,000 a month to run the office, without talking about licenses and fees and stuff. Those are different. But let's say you have 500 agents and each of them are paying $500.
A transaction?
Not a transaction, just a month, a desk fee. But you keep 100% of your commission. Mm-hmm. And let's say they're paying a few $100s like that, $500 for a desk fee per month. And you've got, let's say, you have 500 agents. What is that? 2.5 million per month? Is that right? 20.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Producer, or get your calculator.
250,000. Maybe that's 250,000.
Well,
maybe.
No, it's not.
500. Is that 20?
I don't think so. No, you may be right, but
yeah, I think it's 250.
It's 200. Well, you're right. It's 250,000. But if you do that for a whole year, you're bringing in $3 million a year just in desk fees.
Sure.
Right? What do your licenses cost to be a broker? I don't know. I've never gone down that path. But
I don't know.
It's not nearly that much money. So some of those people, that's why they're not nurturing their talent. That's why their talent, a lot of them, they fall on their face and they quit because they're more worried about collecting a nice hefty desk fee and attracting that kind of talent rather than bringing on higher end talent, better individuals who are willing to put more into their career. And that's one of the reasons Keller Williams does so well. And I love it. Anyways, I don't want to drag that on for too much longer, but let's transition to the badly trained agents, the ones who are at some of those brokerages and just they never really got that foundation to begin with. And yes, they're entrepreneurs and they're out there rocking and rolling and doing what they can, but they have a different foundation. And a lot of that stuff shows in their paperwork when you get offers, and they, just different kind of contract problems. A lot of them, they're not filling out paperwork properly. And, that's just a small minuscule example, but that comes from the foundation you have, your training and, who's building you as an agent.
Yeah. So I think in this market that we've been in, I think it's really shows like experience has really been very obvious, and training. In the past, buyers in the past have been the one who have all the power. They're the one with the money, and it's swapped completely lately, where the seller has all the power, because there's so many people who want to buy their house and they're competing for it. So in all reality, agents are competing against each other, not for one home. And, little things like, knowing what you're talking about, filling out paperwork properly, things like that start to stand out significantly when you have 10 offers. You got, one where there's like a ton of mistakes. So what's that listing agent going to think? What's that seller going to think when they get a contract that's poorly written and there's mistakes?
I've gotten 3 badly written contracts from the same brokerage, 3 different agents.
Don't say any names.
Well, I don't mind. And you didn't say it, I said it. Look, some things need to be said, and I don't mind saying it, John. You didn't say it,
doesn't
so
mean
you're not
other
responsible.
Right? Not other agents. It's just that's an example of a brokerage that is 100%. They pay, you pay by the transaction, and the training is limited, and I definitely think it would be a mistake to, if I was giving somebody good advice getting into the business, I would not recommend going to a brokerage like that. I would definitely, start out with somebody who is going to train you and explain how to do the job, because yes, especially in a market like this, people that have not put the work in training and who do not know how to proficiently do the job are getting punished. And that's why, the top 20% agents are just, the rich are just getting richer. That's what's happening right now. And, you could really avoid that if you really, if you know what you're doing and are following the processes of other successful agents. And obviously, yes, Keller Williams is one example of a place that would be a great.
It's a really tough business to break into. I mean, it's not, almost anyone can get licensed who can test well, but once you get into the business, it's extremely hard to break into. And who you surround yourself with is going to really dictate how that goes for the most part.
Yes. Yeah. If you're around successful agents, you can mirror them and you can talk to them and ask them questions. I think, obviously, with them, the profit share is very important. Then that's what, let's say, what's the benefit to an agent like myself or, Marc Charles or somebody coming up to me and asking me a question? Sure, I'm a nice guy and I love helping people. Ultimately, that's what I love to do. However, when you have a vested interest in the success of the office, it does change things significantly. So I do believe that if I was giving somebody good advice on a brokerage to join, yes, I think it's very important that there is some kind of incentive for the entire office to be successful, because if you don't have that, I think that, we're just human, and, we're ultimately not going to do extra work without being, without an exchange in general, or the quality of work isn't going to be as good.
Yeah. And I've seen you personally actually be very generous with your time and your knowledge and your experience with, agents, even with myself and other agents. I see it all the time. And I think that goes back to, as you said, everyone's success becomes, each other's success because of the profit share program and stuff like that. I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you've got some really great successful agents who are very forward thinking and very motivated, and to be able to tap into that, to be able to walk into an office and be in a classroom and actually have some of those agents sitting next to you, it's definitely powerful, especially the social events and things like that. When I first started, I was in the office every day and constantly trying to learn, and there were some really key agents that really helped me out, and I want to give that back to other agents who are kind of starting out. Obviously, not all of them are going to work out, however, the ones that do, they're appreciative, and, I want to be there for them. I'm just paying it forward and, paying it back as well. So that's kind of how you do it, I think.
Yeah. And it's been evident, you do a great job of that, with as busy as you can be with deals on the, on the line and all that, being able to give back to people in real time all the time. It's a big part of why people stick around there. And, you don't see a revolving door at Keller Williams Tampa Central like you might see in other brokerages. You see people stick around for a while there and do well.
It's funny when you say every office is going to have a certain amount of turnover for sure. But what's funny is that a lot of times the people that do leave, like I can give you an example. When I first started out, I was working very hard. I was trying to learn as much as possible, and there was a particular agent who. She, I looked up to her, and she had, a good amount of success. What I thought to be was a lot of success at the time. Looking back, I realized that she really wasn't doing a ton of business, but, I would, once in a while just try to be friendly with her and try to talk to her. I don't know, maybe she thought I was trying to hit on her. I don't know what the case was, but she would kind of ignore me, and, it was very, it didn't make me feel very good. But what's funny is that she ended up, leaving the office, not too long after either. And it's like, I think a lot of times the people that leave, it's just because they're not in that culture, and that's okay. It's just not the culture for them, and they don't have the buy-in. She didn't have the buy-in. So
we have a very social culture.
Yes.
In our office.
Right.
So it would be hard. And we do have teammates who are a little bit more timid, but we love them because they're there. That's our team. But we do see a lot of social agents, very social, very outgoing, personable, and they don't save it for the clients. They're happy to use it on each other, those great personalities. I think that's really important because I come from media where I was, I worked in Tampa market on radio for nearly 8 years. And I can tell you a lot of people save their personality for when the microphone turns on, and once it's off, they're dragging their butt around that building, and they're not the same person and that's not happiness to me, So I do enjoy that that camaraderie that comes with all the men and women there at Keller Williams. It's really cool.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree with you on that.
So let's shift here. I want to switch gears a little bit, talk a little bit about where the market's going. I want to get your input on that. So one of the headlines that stuck out to me was that the U.S. mortgage lending activity has dropped the fastest in 8 years with the rising interest rates. So people aren't taking loans as much as they have been, especially in the last few years. People have been trying to get as much as they can, but now it seems that people are suddenly timid, suddenly backing off from these loans, getting scared of the interest rates. What are you seeing with your buyers, and what do you have to speak about that the way it's going right now?
Yeah, so I mean, majority of your buyers in a market are going to be affected by monthly payment. I do know there are plenty of cash buyers out there. A lot of times that tends to be in the higher echelon or an investment side. But let's say your average Joe who wants to buy a home to live in, a primary residence, they are affected by monthly payment, and ultimately, 1.5, 2 points, can mean a lot for monthly payment, which that's how they're buying. Can I afford it? They're not looking at, it doesn't matter. If the home is, that's what I would explain to people, last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, a home can be $10 million if the monthly payments, $1,000 a month, you can afford the home, it doesn't matter what it costs. So the number is really relevant. The payment is kind of everything. And ultimately that's going to, affect buyers and how much home they can afford. So yeah, definitely seen a pullback in that regard. Market's still hot. It's not, the market we're in right now, it's still killer. Super active compared to, when I first started. I know when I first started, I'd list a home and, the expectation I would give people, based on pricing and this and that, I'd say, anywhere between 30 to 90 days is usually a good amount for a home to be on a market for. It means that we, priced it right. We didn't price it too high. We didn't price it too low. And we were usually good with selling a home within 90 days. These days it's if they don't sell the home within a weekend, they think you're a bad agent or something. It's just crazy how it is. So, in all reality, if you, if you're getting a listing and it sells in 2 weeks, I think that's great right now. And I haven't looked at the current averages. I'm not studying that every day, but I want to say it's probably around there. It's probably around 2 week average. So.
Yeah, maybe even less if you talk about before the new year. It might have been even less than that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's definitely gone longer since then, but it's still not bad. 2-3 weeks is not bad at all.
Listings is
Come on.
a home in decent condition or good condition with the right price. It's almost a guaranteed deal if you know what you're doing. The other side of that too is the appraisals seem to be coming in short in the last couple months or so, or at least in the last month. Short. It's I'm hearing that from a lot of agents, even within our office, that appraisals are coming in shorter than expected on a lot of deals right now, and I think that's going to help set the tone of the market moving forward into the next year.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if I can't tell you if I've had a significant amount of short appraisals. I haven't had a lot of them, but I think a lot of the deals that I've been doing have been, in the past, have been off market, and looking at, I try not to go the same, be with a herd kind of deal. I definitely think that you have to play things a little differently and not go in that direction, because ultimately, buyers are going to, probably pay too much if there's 20 other people competing for it. So I try to avoid those scenarios in general. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure. I mean, and appraisers aren't dumb. They know how it works a lot better probably than most real estate agents, honestly. So even though they can be frustrating and whatnot at times when things don't work out your way, and sure, there's bad appraisers. I've had appraisers that, I had a $2.7 million property that the appraiser was like basically blank. They use like one comp, and he's like, oh, there's no comparables. And I'm like, then being the price point, there was 2 appraisals because it's over however much money, I forgot. You got to do 2 appraisals, and the other one's super detailed, super well done. And it's like,
So when you have a listing like you do now in Clearwater, it's $2 million?
$2 million, yeah, 2.1 million.
So when you have a $2.1 million listing in Clearwater, how nerve-wracking is it leading up to an appraisal? Because there's so much more room for, it's not a $500,000 home. In those cases, you might be a $50,000 gap is kind of a big deal. But when you get into a $2.1 million home, now you might be dealing with a $300,000 or $400,000 appraisal gap.
You hope not.
Right.
So I try to set the expectation with people. You should have a decent understanding if a home's going to be under appraisal or over whatever. You should know that. That's just by looking at what's sold. And I know we've kind of gone away from that, over the years. The last couple of years, a lot of people are like, who cares what it's sold for? It's like, it's just, this is the price now. But I mean, but still, even if that is the case, you can look at the last home that sold and know, okay, look at that compared to my home. Is it higher? Is it lower? However, how many are there? How long was it on the market? And, it gives you a decent understanding of if it's going to be that case. So if I do believe, I'll tell the people, I'll tell the buyer, I'll say, hey, the last one that sold was this, I'll give them a CMA, they'll have, just a quick CMA, very easy to do. And I'll tell them what the last one sold for and tell them there may be a problem with appraisals here. I will say, luckily, though, a lot of times in that price point, a lot of people are cash. A lot of people, what they're doing is they're paying cash for the property, and they refinance it. And let's say if it's an investment property, they buy the property cash, they depreciate it, and they save on taxes with that, and then they refinance it. The money that they pull out is borrowed money, so it's not taxed. And then they get a tax savings. So that's what a lot of people in that price point are doing. But yes, in the finance deals, it could be significant. And in this case, with that one for $2.7 million, we didn't have time to go back, and they wanted to get in a home. They were living in a hotel. He did have the money. He ended up paying $250,000, the $250,000 spread in that appraisal gap. The other appraisal was perfectly fine at value. It was easy. The other one it wasn't. So they took the one that was lower, and he had to pay $250,000 out of pocket. So, but luckily, again, he had the money. He could have paid cash for it too if he wanted to. He just wanted to finance and lock in a low rate, which he was very smart to do that. He's got like
be easier than refinancing, right? Probably get a better deal that way.
In his case, I don't know exactly what his reasoning was specifically. However, in plus, like you can be worth a lot of money, but like you have to liquidate a bunch of stock, or you have to move a lot of money around and stuff. Maybe people don't want to do that. Like I don't know exactly his scenario, but I'll give you a hypothetical one. Maybe he had a bunch of money and invested in a company or something, and pulling it out would have hurt that company, or that money was doing more work for him than it would have done him paying cash for the home and refinancing, which can also take time as well. So, there's so many scenarios.
Makes sense. Well, John Morgan, before we wrap up, is there anything that you had on your mind as far as our conversation so far, or anything that you wanted to talk about? We do have some time if there's anything you wanted to chat about today.
Oh, no, I think it's great. I'm always happy to, I'm an open book. I definitely think it's important. I'd say if I was giving advice to somebody, I imagine somebody watching this maybe would be looking to get into real estate. Maybe they're new into real estate. I definitely think just don't give up. I do think that it's a very, it's a great business to be in. It's very rewarding. It's definitely not for everyone though. But, you know, if you enjoy it and you look forward to coming into work every day and you have a passion for helping people, this might be a good fit for you. You know, and if it's not, that's okay too. It's just ultimately just give it your all and have good coaches, that good people that are going to give you good advice. And if you're getting good advice, you and you're following it and you're executing it and practicing your craft, you will be successful. And you may decide that you don't like real estate, and that's fine. But like, there's other jobs too, like insurance. Like, you can literally never talk to somebody in person doing some of these other jobs and make a lot of money. I know people that make $500,000, $1 million a year, you know, with these other jobs. So just don't jump though. Don't keep looking for the next best thing. That, you know, if it's short-term gratification, it's going to be
it's the wrong career move for sure.
Oh yeah. If you're looking for, you know, short-term gratification, go be a server. You know, you'll work, you'll meet some people, and you're personable. You have a fun, good time.
You go home with money the same night.
And you go home with money the same night.
If that's what you need. And that's it's a good point you make, because one of the things that I think one of the problems with the turnover rate in real estate, you know, they say 12 or 15% of real estate agents actually stick around after the first phase of their career. A lot of that has to do, in my opinion, with the fact that most of those people got into real estate because something else failed. And that's not a knock on them. I failed many times. I fell on my face in my life, career-wise, personal life. It's normal. That's life. But what I'm getting at is, if you want to be a real estate agent, one of the best things that you can do for yourself, and to each their own, the way that they skin this cat, is to create some kind of revenue for yourself that's not going to take up much of your time, that's going to pay your bills at the minimum. So if your bills are $3,000 a month, find something that is going to take very minimal time, as passive as possible, to pay those bills. So if you're not locking any deals in that month and you're not getting any money the next 60 days, you can keep on trucking. You can keep on working towards that goal. I think that's one of the keys to longevity in the beginning of your career. Unless you come out swinging and you're just, you know, killing it in the very beginning, then hey, that happens with some people. But most people, some people don't make money in the first 3 to 6 months, but they'll end up doing really well in a couple years.
Sure.
Because they stick to it. So having some source of revenue that at least pays your bills, you know, or at least supplements it as much as possible, it's a big key to starting out fresh, and knowing that even if you are a killer, you probably won't have anything for at least 30 days. You know, if you get a cash buyer on day one and, you know, you get them under, I mean, that's like normally 60 days is if you do really well and you come out of the gates. So with that said, most people are living check to check, and by the time that second month comes along, now, you know, the walls are closing in, and that's the worst feeling when you're trying to build a business, the walls closing in, and then trying to go get a part-time job, because then it's basically the writing is on the wall. And yeah, so just preparing a little bit. You know, you're going to be going, you know, it's going to take some time to take the schooling if you're not already licensed. It's going to take some time for that. It's going to take some time for testing, you know. While you're doing all of that and you're prepping to become an agent, you know, find some time to, you know, brainstorm how you're going to create some other revenue.
Right.
And whatever that might mean for you. You know, some people might Uber on Sunday evenings. Some people might have another gig that they know about, that they know how, you know, it's a gig world.
Right.
And people aren't surviving on a full-time income anymore, on a W-2 income. Even if you make $20 an hour, which to a lot of people sounds like good money, to people who are working hourly jobs, you're still only making $800 a week before taxes. Mm-hmm. So you're going home with like $620 a week at $20 an hour, which many people would die for right now.
Yeah. So when I'll tell you a little bit about my story. We have a little bit more time here.
Sure. Go ahead.
So when I first started, I saved up about $20,000, and, you know, I left my job. I didn't understand exactly what I was in. You know, I just knew I wanted to sell real estate, and I was dedicated to doing it. The way things worked out, you know, when I worked for the company that I was, you know, just kind of had a, you know, bit of a falling out, and just, you know, I just wasn't into it anymore. And yeah, I mean, for first 6 months, I didn't sell anything, and I actually ran through the $20,000, and I was at my last, my last dollar. My last dollars went to actually a training program. It was like an $800 training program, and I paid half for it, and the office paid for the other half, and it was called Bold. And I was broke, and it was really tough. So, I mean, I definitely, if you have, if you have some type of passive income, that's great advice, because it's, it can be scary when you're at your last dollar like that.
It is.
And then also when you're, in keeping the integrity and keeping, being straight, not doing the wrong thing, like always doing the right thing is so important. And it really tests you when you're, when you're at, your last dollar, and you're like, geez, I'll do anything to, make a deal happen, but you have to, continue to do the right thing. Just have integrity. It's just so important. But obviously once I started taking off, it was like, it was amazing, but it definitely tested me. I mean, I would literally, I'd wake up at 5 a.m. I'd go to the gym, and I'd get back. I had a toxic roommate that pretty much made my life hell. And I would go to the office and, make phone calls and go to classes. I took Ignite like 3 times, I'd go to the Realtor Association, go to all their classes. I would do everything I possibly could do to just put myself in the best spot, go to networking events in the afternoons. And then I'd go home at, 11, 12 o'clock at night, hope my roommate was sleeping. And
I've had a toxic roommate or two in my time, of course. Yeah, it's normal.
Oh, yeah, it was tough. So
get yourself a non-toxic significant other. That's my advice.
Amen. Yeah, I know. That's a tough one there too for me. So yeah.
So John, you mentioned Ignite. I also took Ignite. That's one of the best things that I ever did starting as a real estate agent. And like you said, you took it 3 times. I more than plan to take it again. I just want to put a little space between the last time I did it and the next time I do it, because I know I'm going to forget some things and abandon some stuff as time goes on, and it'll be a good reminder. And Kelly Earnhardt is, really great at teaching that for all the time that he did. I don't know that he's going to be teaching it moving forward, but phenomenal teacher and football coach. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So that program, I think, that class Ignite, which is like 12 sessions and then a super easy test, that was for me the transitioning, for lack of better words, a transitioning moment for me where I was like starting to realize how to apply my, as you said earlier, entrepreneurial, heart and become more purposeful and actually just start to put the pieces together. Because, when you first become a licensed realtor, you don't learn any real business. You don't get any real education on the actual business when you're getting licensed. It's mostly about litigation. It's about law. It's things not to do so you don't get in trouble, and a little bit about contracts and a little bit about that. But it's just scratching the surface. And I always say your first 2 years as a realtor is the real education. The license is the key into the school. The first couple of years, make it an educational based career as much as possible. Don't just go after deals, but try to have as much education as possible. But that Ignite class is what made everything start to make sense for me, because I had all these great ideas, but I just didn't understand a lot of it. And that's so key. That's so key. And if anyone is at Keller Williams and they haven't taken Ignite yet, and maybe it fell through the cracks for them, I highly recommend doing it.
Sure.
And it blows by very quickly. A few weeks and it's done, and it's really helpful. I mean, it's probably, I think I accredit that class to helping me go from being a licensed agent to a working agent, and that helped quite a bit. So I give a lot of credit to that. And yeah, it's really great. I mean, obviously, you can hear from the conversation. We do appreciate the foundation that Keller Williams offers and stuff like that. One of the reasons I'm able to do, a podcast and have people like yourself on, because I've been surrounded by such high-end experts and professionals that it's given me the tools and the confidence to even put my foot into that fire and really go after it. And yeah, it's really great. John, I really appreciate you joining. I know you've got to head to Clearwater and sell a $2.1 million listing. Yeah. Let's get it done.
Yeah, we're going to get sold today. It's going to happen.
Go get it done.
Yeah.
All right. I'm Marc, and welcome home.
All right. Thanks for having me.